I'm Bill DeFoi, and welcome back to News Junkies. And visiting with me right now is a life coach, and her name is Michelle Hubbard. And Michelle, good to have you with us.
Thank you, Bill. Nice to be here.
I tell you what, I've always wanted to know, what is a life coach?
Well, a life coach is someone who helps a person who has a more specific need, maybe to reach a goal, maybe they're going through a transition, maybe they're going through a big change, and they don't want to go through it all by themselves. And a coach provides some tools and some support to help a person make this journey or reach this goal.
So what started your process to become a life coach?
I think it might have started as early as maybe high school because I wanted to be a psychologist. But then when I found out you had to do dissection and science, I didn't think that was for me, so I went into law. But I was always more interested in the analyzing and the research and the why people do things. And this field of coaching developed. And as I was going through my own situation of divorce and moving from Hawaii and being at age 60, I was really grateful for the coaching training I was going through because I ended up coaching myself.
Well, what kind of training do you have to become a life coach?
I went through I think it was about a year and a half coaching program, and then I also did a 2-year leadership and transformation program. And I did the program with Gay and Katie Hendricks, who are psychologists, and based their training on both the mental, the mind, the emotional aspects, but also body wisdom. And that's who I studied with, and they are actually based in Ojai.
Excellent. Now, we had met a few weeks back at an event with the Seroptimus International over at DCH Lexus in Oxnard, and I had made the statement back then, and I'll make it again and let you react to it. There's an old comic strip by the name of Pogo. And in the comic strip one time, Pogo was dressed in a military uniform. He's saluting his general, and he says, "Sir, we have met the enemy, and the enemy is us." How true is that?
Oh, that is so true. We are so harsh on ourselves. And the approach that I use to coaching is based on loving yourself. And the definition of love that I use comes from Gay Hendricks' book, Learning to Love Yourself, and it's being willing to be in the same space as. And the beauty of that is being willing to be in the same space as us, messy. And as soon as we're willing to let that vulnerable, scared, angry part of us have some space and some attention, then we can kind of open and be available for all of life to be experienced.
Well, that's a very good response. And it seems to me that we can play armchair quarterback with other people, but when we're faced with our own circumstances, all of a sudden we kind of run into a brick wall. And for myself, I've discovered you can do one of three things with a brick wall. You can go through it, you can go around it, or you can go over it. What say you?
I say let's make friends with it.
Yes.
Let's make friends with that brick wall, and maybe then move around. Maybe then it'll turn out that the brick wall might have a gift for us. But if we're so busy trying to shove it down or ignore it or resist it, we're not in a receiving mode. So the brick wall, we can, like you were talking about how we armchair quarterback other people, we're also oftentimes a lot more forgiving and lenient and gentle with other people than we are with ourselves.
I think sometimes people are very harsh on themselves, probably almost to a fault.
I agree. And it's become almost unattractive, not allowed to admit that you're feeling something other than joy. And so we're hardwired to feel other feelings besides happy. And maybe those other feelings will even lead us to happy. But if we're trying to stuff down our own basic nature, we're always fighting ourselves and judging ourselves and being harsh on ourselves.
How true is it that when a person is faced with a life challenge. It could be, as in your case, a divorce, maybe it's a job loss, maybe it's a health issue. How can people get past the idea and the notion that they're angry with the world, let alone themselves?
Yeah, well, I say feel that anger and maybe even make it bigger. Get it all out, get it all up. See what's underneath it. A lot of times under anger is feared. And it might be that underneath that rage is scared to death. And then you're able to see and face the fear, but first you have to get rid of the anger. And you don't get rid of the anger by pretending it's not there, or by thinking it's unattractive or you shouldn't be feeling this way. Let it out. And then see what if anything is underneath that. If there's nothing, then you've got space for maybe a different perspective.
I think that should, be followed, but the caution should be, yes, get the anger out, but don't take it out on another human being or an animal or something like that.
Or yourself.
Or yourself, yes.
Right, but to say, the problem is that when we don't express anger at all, it's still in there, and it's going to come out sideways. So you could have a fight at work, or you could have an exchange at work that made you angry, but you didn't speak. I feel angry when you say that to me. Instead, you stifled it inside. Then you go home and you pick a fight with your partner. Or you eat too much sweets because you've got this anger inside of you you're still trying to ignore. But if you get to a point where you can say, I'm angry that you said that, you're opening at least an opportunity for honest conversation and discussion and possibly collaboration.
How important is communication?
It's so important. That's how we human beings relate with each other. And ironically, it does not always happen this way. We have to use words and eye contact and be enough in touch with ourselves that we can express that to have real, true, transparent, authentic communication.
Well, communication is definitely the key. And I've been in a business that it's all about communication. And sometimes, even within the industry that I've worked in for years, there's very little of that. And you go, I wasn't told that. Well, yeah, didn't you know? Nobody said a word. And so communication to me is extremely important. And you need to verbalize it, even write it down, and express that so everybody is on the same page.
And expressing it clearly and honestly is also very important.
Do people tend to sidestep with that honest communication?
I'm not sure if it's necessarily not being honest, as we're used to this mode of communication through technology that encourages abbreviation, encourages doing fast, encourages being very abrupt and terse and succinct and through emoticons and pictures. And sometimes that really isn't conveying the whole story or the whole truth.
Well, I was telling you before we sat down that in another life, I used to work as a financial aid officer.
Oh, right.
And one of the things in my presentations to students was, go out and apply for scholarships. There are ways that you can do it, some great websites that are out there. The majority, if not all, scholarship applications require an essay. And to craft a good essay, and don't use text language as if you were texting somebody.
Right.
And just don't run words through a spell check like the product was made in America. You don't put M-A-I-D, which would pass a spell check, by the way, and that means a maid to clean up, as opposed to M-A-D-E. And I think a lot of people have lost the art of really articulating themselves by spelling everything out.
Well, one of the facets to my coaching is helping law school and graduate school applicants with their essays. And I find that a lot of what I do is drawing out specific details from them, because what's going to make their essay unique is their own story. And a law school admissions committee, for example, doesn't want to hear how much you already know about the law or how well you can put a brief together and make it look like your personal essay. They want to know about you. And a lot of times that takes a certain amount of bravery to speak truthfully and honestly and with awareness about ourselves.
That sounds like you need to be vulnerable.
It does, doesn't it?
It
I
does.
agree, we do. And I think that's the bravest thing we can do. And, well, Brene Brown's work on vulnerability, what she says is that's the thing that we need most in our society right now, is to be willing to be vulnerable, because that's how we're dealing with someone who's willing to be transparent and authentic and honest. Otherwise, who are we really communicating with? We are not all happy all the time, no matter what.
And, anymore, people are looking for that transparency. Otherwise, you come across, at least in my judgment, as with something to hide.
Right. And we can tell when someone isn't being completely honest, and the generic, I'm fine, isn't really what's going on with the person, yet if they're not saying, I feel sad today. We don't know what it is that's behind the I'm fine, but we know something is, and maybe we start to think, is this person saying anything that's really true? Maybe we start to think, I don't know if I want to have a relationship with this person or even could, or who is this person?
There is a motivational speaker that I'm aware of by the name of Dr. Dale P. Henry. And Dr. Henry, in one of his videos, talks about just that. When you ask a person how they are doing, they will say, fine. You fine? I'm fine. I'm fine. You're fine. I'm fine. And you have to take it above the level of being just fine. You have to have, an attitude of really embracing life. And that's what I'm all about. I hope I'm all about anyway.
Yeah, I've started asking the question, how are you feeling today?
With my fingers is how I normally I say, but that's, it's a, tongue-in-cheek answer, but go ahead.
Yeah, or what was really happy making about your day today? What was the most exciting you did this last week? Something that's a little bit more specific question to get a more specific answer.
I think a lot of people would say, what's the most important thing that you did today? And they'd probably say, getting out of bed.
Well, and for a lot of people who suffer panic attacks and facing the morning is very difficult, that is a big thing to do. And good for all of us who did get out of bed today and showed up in our world, however we're showing up. And wouldn't it be nice if we were willing to congratulate or maybe even thank ourselves for that? It's a choice. Ultimately, it is a choice.
Is there a thing as to reward yourself when you get to that point?
I believe in celebrations. Yes, I believe in appreciating ourselves and celebrating. And maybe if we celebrate ourselves with a little treat, like one of the bite-sized brownies that I brought you, thank you for interviewing me, then we wouldn't have to eat the whole batch of brownies because we're feeling ignored or we're feeling sad or, another way of coping with emotions. If we treat ourselves, these little celebrations, for acknowledging, I'm here doing it.
How would you approach somebody, talking about brownies, and you brought one of my favorite snacks, I might add.
Oh, good.
People that are having that battle of the bulge, they're overweight. I've noticed within my own family, people are they're nervous eaters, and they'll go and they'll say, well, I'm feeling bad today. I'll go out and I'll have an ice cream cone. And then they get feeling guilty about having the ice cream cone, and next thing you know, they're raiding the refrigerator, and it seems like it's a perpetual cycle. How can one break that?
I think it goes back to the definition of love. Are you willing to be in the same space as, I'm feeling hurt? Are you willing to face the hurt? If you aren't willing to face the hurt, are you willing to face the, I'm overeating because I hurt? What are you willing to face that instead you're choosing to overeat and distract yourself from facing? And the more you face, then underneath that you'll face something new. But I think that being willing to be in the same space is what is really important, even in that type of a situation.
Oh, wonderful. Well, listen, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you for a telephone number and your website that if people wanted more information about what they can do to improve their lives, and you can come in as a third-party observer and say, here are some helpful suggestions. I know that within my family structure, I've had one of my children, Dad, I'm facing this problem, and I'll give him 3 or 4 options, let him know the consequences, but let him make the ultimate decision.
Right.
And, you've got the tools, and I think, knowledge is power.
I agree.
And so anyway, back to my point, website and phone number for you.
My website is michellehubbardcoaching.com, and my email address is michellehubbardcoach@gmail.com, and my phone number is area code 805-814-6884. And I always schedule a free 1-hour call to see what's going on with someone who's interested in working with me, see if we are a good fit, see how we feel after that conversation. And in that conversation, I offer them one tool to take away and use no matter what.
Wonderful. Well, again, your phone number is 805-814-6884, and it's michellehubbardcoaching.com. And Michelle, it is a joy to have you with us. What I'd like to do, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to.
Okay.
I would like for you to come back every 2 or 3 weeks and offer us one tip that we can take away each week, as to say, here's something, a little nugget that would be something that we could make some practical application with.
I've got just the thing. My approach to coaching spells lift, L-I-F-T, and I would be happy to come back and teach a letter each week.
There you go. And you have a motto on your card. I'd like to read it. It says, don't focus on the answer, focus on the question, and let your life be your answer.
Right. That's quoting Katie Hendricks, and she is my coaching mentor. She is my leadership and transformation mentor. She is an awesome woman with a brilliant mind and heart.
Wonderful. Well, Michelle, I look forward to having you back
Thank
again
you.
real soon.
I look forward to it.
I'm Bill DeFoi. Thank you for joining us. You're watching News Junkies, a production of the Heritage Media Group.